Behind the perfect stages, expensive outfits, and millions of views is a side of K-pop most fans rarely see. Becoming an idol can take years of sacrifice, and for many trainees, debut isn't even guaranteed. So, what is trainee life really like? Monthly evaluations. Let's start with something almost every trainee knows. Evaluations. Trainees aren't simply practicing until someone decides they're ready. Many companies regularly evaluate their trainees on things like singing, dancing, performance, language skills, and overall improvement. These evaluations can determine how a trainee is progressing compared with others. And the pressure isn't only about getting a good score. A trainee might be moved up or down in rankings, receive different opportunities, or be given feedback on what they need to improve. In highly competitive systems, trainees can also find themselves competing for limited spots in a potential debut lineup. So imagine spending months or even years training, knowing that every evaluation could affect your future with the company, and that's only one part of the trainee system. Daily routine. Now imagine doing that while following a schedule that can take up most of your day. A trainee's routine can involve vocal lessons, dance practice, choreography, fitness, language classes, and individual practice. Depending on the company and the trainee, schedules can vary, but the basic idea is simple. Practice, improve, repeat, and they're not only learning choreography for one performance, they're constantly working on technique, expressions, stamina, vocals, and stage presence. Some trainees also have school or other responsibilities alongside training, and after all those lessons, there's still individual practice, going over choreography again, working on vocals, or preparing for the next evaluation. It's essentially preparing for a career where the standard keeps getting higher. But there's another part of trainee life that isn't talked about nearly as much: money. Trainee debt. Training costs money. Companies may invest in things like training, accommodation, lessons, equipment, and other expenses while a trainee is preparing to debut. This is where the idea of trainee debt comes in. However, there's an important detail. Not every company uses the same system, and not every trainee leaves with debt. Contract terms can vary significantly. Historically, some contracts have included arrangements where certain training or development expenses could be recouped from an artist's future earnings. That means for some trainees, leaving before debut or failing to establish a successful career can create complicated financial consequences depending on their contract. And remember, trainees can spend years preparing without knowing whether they'll actually make it into a debut lineup. Which brings us to perhaps the biggest uncertainty of all: no guarantee of debut. Training for years does not automatically mean you will debut. A trainee can be talented, hardworking, and experienced, and still never become an idol. Companies constantly make decisions about potential groups based on things like concepts, market demand, timing, group chemistry, and business plans. A trainee might train alongside someone for years and then watch that person debut while they don't make the final lineup. And even when a trainee is selected for a debut team, plans can change. Groups can be delayed, lineups can change, or projects can be canceled. That's why the trainee period can be so uncertain. You're working toward a goal that requires enormous effort, but there is no guaranteed finish line, and living with that uncertainty can take another kind of toll. Mental pressure. The final part is the pressure. Trainees are working in an environment where they're constantly being evaluated and compared. They're trying to improve while dealing with uncertainty about their future. Competition for debut spots, demanding schedules, and the expectations that come with potentially becoming a public figure. And when your goal is something you've spent years working toward, even small setbacks can feel significant. That's why support systems matter, whether that's family, friends, teachers, trainers, or access to professional help when needed. It's also important to remember that trainees aren't just performers. They're young people trying to build a career in one of the world's most competitive entertainment industries. Behind every polished performance is a person who has spent countless hours preparing to stand on that stage. So, the next time you watch a K-pop performance, remember that what you see on stage is only the final few minutes of a much longer journey. Behind those few minutes can be years of training, evaluations, uncertainty, financial complications, and pressure. Not every trainee becomes an idol. Not every dream reaches the stage. But understanding the reality behind K-pop doesn't mean you have to stop enjoying it.